My name is Hannah Brewster. I'm the operations manager here at Jana Marie Foundation, and I'm going to introduce our next speaker. But before, let's talk a little bit about healing. Healing, as we know, is not a destination. It's very much a journey. It's the slow, steady work of stitching together the pieces of our hearts after loss, of learning how to carry both the pain and the love. Healing doesn't mean forgetting, and it doesn't mean the absence of struggle. Instead, it's about discovering new ways to live with what we've endured, allowing hope and connection to grow alongside our grief. There will always be twists and turns along the road of healing, but when we walk it together, we remind one another that we are not alone. Healing happens, as Rachel mentioned, in community, in moments of vulnerability, in shared stories, and in the courage it takes to speak out. Tonight, we are privileged to hear from someone who has dedicated his life to fostering resilience, compassion, and healing in others. Please help me welcome John Carell.
Well, thank you, Hannah. I wish, I don't know. I hope I can live up to some of that. Yeah, hi, my name is John, and I lost my 18-year-old son, Jacob Carell, to suicide in June of 2015. But I'm not here to share that pain with you. That's never ending. But if you ever want to talk about that, I'd be happy to talk about that with you. Then last week, I sat by his tombstone and talked with him on what should have been his 29th birthday. But I'm not here to talk about that either. I'm here because I was asked to tell my story, which I've shared a few times in the grief group, our survivor group. And some have heard probably maybe too many times. So I'd like to do that for you here. It's something about strength and courage to survive, something that did not come easily to me, as I was a pretty renowned skeptic of group therapy and those type of things. So, after I lost my son, I was in that fog that two of us know too well. That hopelessness, not knowing how I could share my feelings when I didn't even know what they were myself. How could I say them to somebody I didn't know or share them with other people? So I thought I was just lost. Then someone from my church at St. Andrews told me about a group that was going on at Choices. And it was just around the corner from where I was living at the time, so I thought, after months, I'd try and give a shot at it. So Tuesday night came, I got in my car, drove to Choices, fell apart in the parking lot, to the point I couldn't even get out of the car. So after sitting there for a while, I just started the car and went home. I struggled through another week. Decided, okay, I got to try it again. So next week came, got my car, went over, determined I got out of the car before I could fall apart. Started falling apart, going across the parking lot, got it, went inside, went to the restroom, fell apart. I couldn't go in and talk to people like this, so I left again. Struggled even more this next week. How could I share what I'm feeling? Because, like I said, I didn't know what it was. So, all right, I got to try this one more time. So, third time I got my car, got out fast, went right to the door, and turned the handle and went in before I could fall apart. Like this. And the first thing I recall from going in that group is feeling the raw pain that so many people there that I didn't know were sharing. And I caught me off guard. But then I started realizing, that was the pain I had, and I didn't have anyone I could share it with. So I was fortunate that I was able to turn that door handle and go through and find people I could share that pain with. The second thing I remember about that night is meeting a father, Larry, who had lost his son Christian to suicide 8 years earlier. And I remember sitting to myself going, how could he be here 8 years later, still with the same raw pain? Because I knew I wasn't pretty sure I wasn't going to make it through that first year. But just like he's done, I've been doing that and going to group and sharing my story, and now it's been 10 years. So, that is my story about jumping into grief therapy. But I'd like to share a little more. I think the most important thing I learned from sharing my pain with others and hearing so many people share their pain, of stories of pain, was what our favorite line was: it's okay to do whatever you need to do to get through that day, to get through that hour, sometimes just to get through that moment when grief takes over. It's okay to do whatever you need to do. Whether that's cry and scream, if that's what it takes. Whether it's fall apart when you're at a gathering. It's always better if you can for the others, if you could slip away to fall apart, but that's not a requirement. If you need to fall apart there, just do it. If you need to isolate yourself to be able to process some of those things, that's okay too. Sometimes it's even okay to ask for a hug. And I've learned to do that. And I'm fortunate to have a loving wife and partner, Tabitha, who I could ask for those hugs at any time, and sometimes receive them even before I know I really need them. Because when I told her on our first date that I had a hole inside of me that would never be filled, I thought she might run away. But she hugged me then too. So that was pretty special and led to what's been great years. So, again, the big thing I learned from group therapy is it's okay to do what you need to do at the time you need to do it. You don't need to deny your grief, right? I've seen people try and deny their grief, and that never ends well. People fall into, antidepressants, alcohol, other things to try and deny their grief. That's not a path you want to go down. Grief is painful. It hurts. It's raw. But with family and community and friends, and sometimes people you don't even know, you can get through it somehow, some way. Whew. So that was the most important thing I learned about it. I would like to share some other things I learned about it and some of the incredible friendships I've made by going to a group that we always say no one wants to be at. Right? No one wants to go to this group therapy, and some of us sometimes kid that we look forward to it, and then we kind of how can we say we look forward to going to therapy when we know we're going to be so emotionally raw? But you do. It is some place, it's probably the only place when you're around people who know that pain, where you can share that pain and know that they'll understand it, and then listen to their pain and be there for them. So, some of those friendships have been incredible. Whew. And again, I have utmost respect for the people. Like I said, it took me 3 times to open that door. I've met people who've been there weeks after or months after losing somebody, and days after losing someone, and I don't know how they have that strength. That, like I said, it took me months and everything I can just to turn the door handle. That first day I met Kathy Crean, who had lost her son a year earlier. And she was what she could self-described herself as, a therapy junkie. She went to all kinds of therapy groups, Tides, our support group, everything she could. And I admired her for it, but I didn't think I could do that. And after another session, we started having monthly sessions led by Cindy Ross. And I met my good friend Eva, who asked to be here tonight to support me. And she came willingly. I also met Chris and Lainey, an older couple who had lost their son, who is a new father. And I watched them be incredible grandparents for the child of their son that was no longer with them. Again, all those people are friends of mine that I met through group therapy. There's probably others, but I'd be terrible at their names, and my memory is not that strong. But again, just meeting people there, and in that raw, you really form a bond that is special. So, besides friendships, the other thing that I've always been amazed about group therapy is some of the inspirational people I've met who've gone on to do things in honoring the ones that they lost. First one I'd like to talk about is Hayden Zook. I happen to be wearing a shirt for the run that he organized to honor his brother. Hayden would come to a group with his wife, and he'd always get up early and the sun rises. And he'd talk about the sunrise a lot in our group therapy and how that lightness was so special to him because it got rid of the dark. And that's what we're all looking for when we're in that fog and in that hopeless feeling. So from listening to my friend Hayden, I got a really new appreciation of sunrises. He's now started this Adam Zook Memorial Run because his brother was a runner and a journalist in the Tyrone community, and it's grown and grown. I've gone there with Evelyn and other friends from the group who attended it. They now raise thousands of dollars, bring a lot of awareness to the community, and provide scholarships to many students in the Tyrone School District. Another inspiration for me was a couple of sisters who in our group are usually online together, Crystal and Lori. They lost Lori's son, David, 18 years old, who was a Boy Scout and a leader in the community and very helpful. So they worked with a scout group and them to create a project at a scout camp. And there's now the David O'Connell Health Education Building out at Seven Mountains Boy Scout Campground in his honor. Another one who inspired me was John Valetnik, or as we became known as, John and the other John, depending on which one of us got the group first. John was still is a kinesiology professor who lost his father in his arms, but then was able to write about it so eloquently and put stories in the paper and other places to share his grief and pain. He now runs Happy Valley Wellness Solutions to help people with all kinds of needs, along with his incredible wife, Paige. And they have some adorable children as well. And they've done some of the overnight walks. So again, some of those people have inspired me. But, I'm sure there's probably maybe some others that I'm forgetting. Like I said, my memory's not the best, and a lot of those support groups end up being a little blurry with emotion. So, but again, those are just some of the ones and some of the friendships I've gotten. But all those people who inspired me, and I think they were all inspired by Marissa and the Jana Marie Foundation. Marissa is has assembled an incredible team, including my friend Hannah. And it's just amazing all they have done and continue to do to help open minds, talk about it, remove some of the stigma, and save lives. And they've been doing that since 2012. So I'm thankful for all of them, because all of them are a big reason I'm up here now. There's only one other person I need to thank more for being able to be up here now. And that's someone who hugged me on that first night. I found the courage and the strength to open the door. Someone I really think is a true blessing to the Sounder County community, who started a survivor group and is a suicide survivor herself. I can't even imagine the number of stories and the amount of pain she has enabled so many of us to share with her and continue to share with her. But I know she's held up the light for me and for many others and helped me get through that fog and that darkness, and continues to do it for so many. And I'd like to thank Evelyn for all she's done for me. And with that, I am done. Thank you for listening.